Are you ready? Let's go. Ready?
Ready.
Yeah, ready when you are.
Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Holden Shepherd, Heidi Anderson, Jan Latta, Alison Patterson, welcome to my little show.
Why do you call it a little chat show?
Jan Nichols, Sam Eichen, Annabelle Smith, Donna Mazza, Rebecca Watson, Jonelle Fraser, Tracy Jacobson, Adam Wallace, Monique Mulligan, Matt Glover, Karen Young. I don't even know where I'm going with this. Welcome to my show. Okay, before we get underway, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you'll get the little bell to say, hey, a new video is up, a fabulous interview, and you won't miss out on anything exciting. And my course, Here I Am, is now going gangbusters. If you want to give your kids a fantastic grounding in good mental health and life skills to guide them through life and through the rest of their life, go down to my link below and check out Here I Am. And also that's where you can buy my books as well. Being You Is Enough, It's Okay to Feel the Way You Do, Magnificent Mistakes and Fantastic Failures, and Being Wildly Kind. And the amazing news is I'm halfway through writing the 5th book in the series. So let's keep going. Well, there's a storm raging outside at the moment while I record this. There's storms all last night and I had hardly any sleep, but I woke up and I came alive because I got to chat with fabulous kids author Kitty Black. And we talked about some of the most important things that I believe that all kids and all parents need to know, and that's about feelings and about getting kids to understand their feelings and the importance of why they need to understand and talk about what's going on inside them. Now, Kitty's got a couple of books coming out later in August. We talk about them and we talk about how parents can help their kids open up and talk about feelings and how they can model behaviour. So this is a very, very, very informative episode of Josh Langley Gets to Know. Plus, we have a good laugh or two and we talk about the fact that Kitty is one of the rare people to actually make the leap and become a full-time writer. Now that's pretty exciting. So, as you would normally do, pour a cup of coffee, glass of wine, whatever, while you're taking the dolphin for a walk or talking to the goldfish, whatever it is. Let's get to know Kitty Black. Kitty Black, thank you so much for coming on my show. How are you?
I am very well, thank you, despite there might be some wild weather happening and some rattling noises.
Yeah, it was pretty windy overnight, and I think you said you were tired when we were chatting just before because you didn't get much sleep, and I'm the same. So we'll just see how we go. If we both nod off during this, we just know we need to up our game.
Either be like, hyper or like snoozy, and either way, that's fine.
Either way, we can see how we go. Now, look, I was actually reading an article this morning that my publisher had sent to me, and it was called, what was it called? The Counterintuitive Secret to Raising Kind Kids. And the whole article was about that to raise kind kids, you actually have to get them to understand their own feelings and emotions first. Because when they understand their emotions and feelings, they can then see it in other people. Now, the author of this article was saying that's counterintuitive, it's radical. And for me, it's not. It's just logical. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it always has to be personal first because, kids, they grow up and they're the center of their own world, and that's kind of how they're meant to be for a while. You start off understanding yourself and then your world gets bigger and bigger, and kind of trying to force them into a prescribed behavior, that's always going to backfire. You can't teach kindness. You can understand it and then build on it. I think, there's a difference between the feeling and the behavior.
Yeah, I suppose it's because in the articles they were saying that, most often parents would try and lecture their child about how to be kind to someone. Like it's not going to connect. But if you can teach the child to understand their own feelings about, whether it's feelings of jealousy or feelings of whatever it is, or anger or anxiety, and they go, so this is what it feels like. then that person must be going through the exact same thing that I am. I mean, I talk about it with all my school talks and stuff, and tell kids to try and empathize because they've got the same feelings that they have. Do you think, because we're going to talk about your books coming out very shortly, but how important do you think that is for kids to understand their feelings?
Oh, it's crucial. This, like, feelings and emotions are the basis for how we react to other people. It's how we build relationships. It's emotions inform our own decisions as well. So we make decisions based on our feelings. If we don't understand our feelings, then we can't always follow our own logic or really understand why we do the things we do. And that's such a lost feeling as well. Like, to be like, oh, why did I do that? And I think going back to what you said about the article, when kids understand their own feelings, and then they can relate to others. So having that step of understanding and accepting your own emotions first, that allows you to build relationships with others and understand yourself more.
Now, you've just come out of being in the education system as a counsellor and wellbeing coordinator at a primary school. What's the prevalence of let's talk about schools first, schools teaching and talking about understanding emotions and emotional intelligence, the zones of regulation, all that sort of stuff. Is it big in schools at the moment?
I think it is. So I worked in mainly, slightly alternative schools or independent schools. But I do know that mainstream schools usually have a strong focus and a strong program as well. So I think it's, particularly in primary schools, I think it's starting to become more and more mainstream to have a program of social and emotional acceptance. The trick then is kind of building that into the context of the classroom and into, the way that teachers respond to students, so that it doesn't just become lip service.
Yeah, okay. Or it doesn't remain an abstract concept for the kid.
Yeah. Like, the thing that was really tricky for me as a counsellor wellbeing coordinator was when kids just gave the right answers. So they would just be like, oh, I know I did the wrong thing. This is why, this is what I'll do next time.
Yep.
There's not a lot you can do with that. Like, you kind of need to find a way in to get to the real feelings there and, what they're actually trying to achieve, because they always have a goal and they always know why they did it. But yeah.
What do you think parents can do to help kids get in touch or understand their feelings a bit more?
I think modeling is one of the most important things you can do. And don't disregard your own feelings. Like, you're a person. It's okay to have feelings and respond to those, and to name frustration and name tiredness and kind of negative emotions like that. And then kids can see how you deal with them appropriately.
Do you think how we're talking, parents from the ages of 20 to 55 or whatever, how aware are they of their own emotions? I mean, because we weren't taught this at school. We weren't taught this by our parents. So where do parents learn that?
That can be really tricky. I think, there's an element of seeking it out yourself that has to be part of it too. I mean, this was always kind of an interest of mine, not because I was great at it, but because I wasn't. Because it was kind of like, oh, why did I do that? And that's not what I thought that I would do. And, how do people react to things? And so there is an element of looking for it yourself, but you can always just start with really simple things, like giving yourself 10 seconds just to feel the feeling.
Yeah.
Being comfortable with discomfort is a great place to start.
And that's what most people want to avoid. And once I suppose I'm exactly the same. It's like, I'm feeling angry, I'm upset, or
I like being uncomfortable. I don't like being angry or anxious. It's like, just get this away. How can we distract ourselves?
Yeah, but as you're saying, if you just spend 10 seconds with it, it doesn't seem so big and so bad. And I think the idea of wanting to avoid it is actually bigger than experiencing it itself. And I think that's what you're saying, is if you just allow yourself to experience it, it's like, oh, Okay, that's not.
Yeah, it's not so terrible because quite often we think of being anxious or angry or jealous or lonely or upset as these really horrible feelings that we don't want our kids to experience and we don't want to experience ourselves. But if you just sit with it, to use a catchphrase, then it's not so bad, and feelings always move on. There's like an endless cycle. Like it could be back, and it will be, but it will also leave.
Do you think that adults or parents have a fear of, if they do that, then they appear to be vulnerable, and their kids see them being vulnerable, and they're not the strong stoic parent that they're meant to be, or that they're meant to know everything? Is there a fear of that comes in?
Potentially, I think you could do both. I think like parents, like of my context, and you know, tends to be more that we don't want to damage our children. So there's this very
That's
like, you know, you try conscious of everything that you do. So you're like, oh no, if they see me freaking out, then you know that's an anxiety disorder that I've created right there. But if they see you dealing with it and they see you accepting it and then making good choices around it, then that's something that they learn to do themselves. And they learn that, like, you know, we don't just get rid of anxiety or get rid of anger or even fear or anything like that. The goal isn't just to get rid of them as fast as we can. It's to get the information and learn from it. Because informative as well.
Sorry?
Because emotions are informative as well.
Oh, yeah, exactly. They tell you what's going on. And I think if you shift the focus and look at as the emotions as a positive to guide you through what you're going through, you can better navigate it. And do you think that because parents or adults are not in touch with their emotions, when their kids are showing big emotions, they can't deal with it? They can't cope with it. Because the idea is, I mean, I try and tell, say one of the best things you can do is sit with, as you said, sit with your child while they're going through, so the child knows they're safe, they're okay, whatever they're feeling is good, they're safe, and that it'll pass, and that would go through. But a lot of parents go, I can't deal with this, I will need to fix it, and they want to jump in and fix it. And what do you say to that?
I think it's a really difficult thing, and it's something that I struggle with as well. So, because it is, again, that kind of concept of modeling and teaching, and it can be really hard to watch your child be distressed or watch them be sad or, you know, be calm even when they're chucking a massive tantrum and having all of these big feelings, and, you know, kind of standing there being, you know, like, oh, you're so upset, isn't like, you can separate behavior and feelings as well. And you don't, like, if you're drowning in the emotion, take a break. Like, your job isn't to jump in there with them. So if they're overwhelmed by a feeling, you absolutely don't have to go in there and rescue them and let yourself be completely overwhelmed as well. Like, you can say, I can see that you're really upset. I'm going to go breathe for 10 seconds. I'll be back in a minute. I'm just going to go get a glass of water. You're safe. I'll be back. So you can,
I like that.
Yeah. Time for yourself. You can let your kid know what's going on, and it's still like, you're not like, be quiet, I can't handle this. But you're still caring for yourself.
I like that. So that little moment, that pause, a bit of self-care. So therefore, you as the parent can then deal with that situation. And this beautifully segues into other resources that parents can have are books. And you have got a series coming out in late August. So this is the first two books in the series. Now the series is called Follow Your Feelings. So what are the first two books called? Have you got them there?
So the first two books, and I just happen to have them here. So it's Follow Your Feelings, and it's Lucy and Sad. Yeah. And this is Sad. He's a big blue bear, and I love him so much. I think he's adorable. And like sadness is obviously a big blue bear. I don't know why. We all don't already know that. I'm sure on some level we do.
Yeah.
And then there's Max and Worry. And Worry is this little stressed out meerkat.
Okay, right. So what happens with the storylines in these books? Just pick one. What about the worry one?
Okay. Oh, Max and Worry. Okay.
Yeah.
So
But obviously this is talking about anxiety in this, or is it a little bit less than the?
It's kind of a cross between anxiety and worry and panic. So
Is that your house falling in or something?
Not quite, not yet. We'll see how it goes the rest of the day. So Max and Worry is when Max has a hard time starting his maths work, he's joined by someone new, Worry. But Worry doesn't give Max the help he needs. So it's about how, again, when we're kind of confronted with a negative emotion, we just want it to go away. And what Worry wants in the book is for Max just to get out of the room, basically. So, Max is looking at his maths, and maths is the most common school anxiety and worry and concern. So
I can understand that. I hated maths. I got so worried about
everyone.
I still worry about maths.
People like, so, worries there going, that looks hard. And like, what if you get something wrong? So all those thoughts that kids tell themselves and that we tell ourselves, they're catastrophizing. And then we've got some physical symptoms going on. And like, it's a bit funny. There's some funny bits. There's, is that a 7 or a chicken? Chuck some humor in. And so Worry's just trying to get Max away from his maths. And eventually Max runs out of the room. And then the situation is worse. So he's in trouble, but he has some excellent grown-ups and they talk to him. Well, they accept his feelings, really. So, later his grown-ups held him tight. All that matters is you do your best, they said. So again, there's that kind of relationship being modeled. And then Max can't sleep and he's still kind of ruminating on things. And then he starts to talk to his worry and kind of start to argue with it and disagree with it.
So he challenges the worry. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing as well, is that we can talk to our emotions, like part of accepting them, like it's accepting that they're present, but not accepting everything that they tell us because it may not be true.
Usually it's not.
Usually it's not true.
It's all made up.
Yeah, it's like catastrophizing. It's the worst possible situation. And then the next morning, Max still feels anxious. So he still has physical symptoms of anxiety. His stomach is still churning like a washing machine, but he decides that it's okay to make mistakes and ask for help. Yeah. So it's not about he's suddenly brilliant at maths. It's, that even when we feel uncomfortable, we can do hard things.
Yeah, I love that. What a great way of telling the story. Yeah, so one of the best ways that I feel is for parents to read the books to kids. Would you recommend that with?
Yeah, absolutely. Because like even without going too deeply into it, it's a story, it's a narrative. So that can be an easy way in, and kids might tell you themselves, "Oh, that's what I do," or I have a worry and, my worry might be a camel or something. I don't know.
Well, so do you think it's also a good opportunity for parents, as you were saying earlier on in the interview, to talk about their own vulnerabilities, to talk about when they had some worry about something or what they did?
Yeah, absolutely. I know that for my kids, if I lecture them, it doesn't work. But if I'm like, when I was a kid, I was in this situation and it's, surprisingly similar to their situation, and it doesn't necessarily have to be entirely accurate, because I'm sure that most situations that kids are going through, like we've all been through. So kind of just offer an easy way in and kind of model that acceptance as well. So kind of like, I used to get really anxious about certain things, or, I had a bad thing happen at school and then I didn't want to go anymore and I was really worried about it. And then they start to open up.
Yeah. Okay. And it's that opening up, and it's that creating that safe space that you as the parent do to talk openly about. And that's what I find the wonderful thing books can do, especially reading books with kids. And it leads to that questioning. It leads to the parent having their own vulnerable moment, or the child going, okay, this is the time I need to talk about this, or whatever that's been bugging them, or something like that. And that's the power of books like that.
And knowing that parents are people as well, because that's something that we also want to teach our children is, particularly as they grow older, it's that, we're people and we have our own dreams and needs and all of those things. We're not available 24 hours a day. And the goal is to raise competent, independent, happy adults as well.
And books like yours help that. Now, Kitty, your whole family has yourself, your children, and your partner, husband has been diagnosed with ADHD. Can you tell me, because I know there's a lot of misconceptions out there in the community about ADHD. Can you tell me what it looks like, firstly, and what some of the misconceptions are?
So generally in school, it's labeled as laziness, or you're just not reaching your full potential, or you're not concentrating. So it's like, the kid that talks too much, the kid that daydreams, the kid that makes silly mistakes,
Me.
the kid that, can't follow instructions. So they might do the first part and then wander off. And quite often it's...
It sounds like I should be diagnosing myself here. Anyway.
There was an element of being in my daughter's assessment, and my husband and I were just looking at each other so and the concept, what people can think, the misconception is that it's done on purpose, that this kid is in full control of their actions and behaviors and emotions, and that it's a choice to not concentrate, or that they have the availability for more concentration and more focus, and they can do these things 100% of the time. When the reality is that, depending on, to use psych words, depending on dopamine availability and executive function and all of those types of things, they may not have that capacity at that point in time. And just because they can do a task in one context doesn't mean that if they don't do it in another, it's a willful choice and they just, being lazy.
Because that whole school system is set up to sit there, be quiet, listen to the teacher for 6 hours a day for 17, for how many years? For lots of years. And
all
it's
of them.
And I hear, firstly, I don't think human beings are designed to really learn that way, but it really does highlight if someone does have ADHD, because you just can't do that. You just can't take it all in like that. It's not the way to learn, is it?
Yeah. And that's the thing. It can be really damaging. And that was why I was really glad, because my daughter was diagnosed when she was 6. And I wish I had been diagnosed that early, because the self-loathing and the awareness that goes into knowing that, you can do some things in this context, but you can't in others. So you question yourself. You're like, oh God, am I lazy? Am I just a person that makes so many mistakes? And you believe other people when they say, if you can do this, that means you can do all of these things.
And when you can't, you feel bad.
Yeah. So I love the fact that my kids know how their brain works, and we can provide accommodations and have high expectations, and not just have them kind of have the baseline be functionality, but have it be flourishing. How can we help you to flourish? We don't just want them to be okay. We want them to be the best that they can be.
So the importance of a diagnosis then is crucial, isn't it? Because that allows that process to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And self-diagnosis is valid as well.
Mm.
If you don't like the full diagnosis route. But yeah, I think just acknowledging neurodiversity and neurodivergent brains and neurotypical brains, and I think the current stats, and they're always kind of changing a little bit, but the current stats in Australia are 6% of kids will be diagnosed with ADHD. And the kind of interesting thing there is that it is like a lifelong neurological difference, but only 0.5% of adults are diagnosed.
Yeah, I've heard there's a lot of undiagnosed adults out there, and I think
and I'm sure there's
big
a lot
one.
of adults too. Depends. If you have a lot of friends who have, like, you know, who are autistic or have ADHD or kind of other neurodivergent conditions, then we tend to travel together in packs because we make sense to each other.
Yeah, and that's maybe because the books that I write are just loved by kids with autism or ADHD because they're simple, they're easy to read, there's no storyline, there's nothing to comprehend. It's just like, you know, it's just simple to digest.
Funny.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was back to the importance of a diagnosis. A lot of people out there in the community go, oh, well, you just drug them up with Ritalin and all that sort of stuff. Is that still a thing, or what's the story with that?
People are still really concerned about that. And I understand that because it's really tricky to decide whether or not to use medication or not use medication. So there are definitely other ways you can go about it. And again, kind of getting the diagnosis or self-diagnosing and informing yourself about how your brain works is crucial, because there's like exercise. So getting dopamine into your system is really important, because if you have ADHD, then you have a dopamine seeking brain. It's always looking for a way to kind of wake itself up. It's looking for something new. It's looking for something interesting. Kind of why we tend to be good in a crisis when everyone else is panicking, because we get a big hit of dopamine and suddenly we can think really clearly. So sugar could actually be really helpful if you've got a I know, and again, it's counterintuitive and it goes against everything.
If you've got diabetes, no.
No, ignore that. There's context to
it. Yes. So sugar, what else?
Again, like whatever kind of provides a dopamine hit in some ways. So before exams, it's recommended that you just get like a big drink of lemonade or whatever and just sip it, because then all the sugar goes to your frontal cortex and you can concentrate more. There's also rewards. So ADHD brains in particular need rewards. We won't do stuff unless we know why and what's in it for us. I'm
on my self-diagnosed. Gee whiz, I'm learning a lot here, Kitty.
So there's and again, like in schools, there's a lot of talk about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. I
bang on that about all the time. Yep.
But for neurodivergent kids, often you need the extrinsic first. So they kind of need, and like you need like a mini reward. It doesn't have to be physical. Like if whatever their currency is, it might be like my kids love being chased and tickled. Their currency is fun. It's exhausting, but we know that's what they love. So, it'll be like, okay, let's get this done and then we can play a game. And they're like, yes, okay, let's go.
Gotcha. That's it. Yep.
And like, we have to do this incredibly boring task. They're like, why? And, then it kind of stops and you have to push them through it. They kind of need to know that there's something good at the end. And I have to do that with myself too. So if I'm like, I just have to do all of this and then I can do the fun thing.
All right. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Yep. I get that. Now, look, you told me before we started recording that you've just done something that most kids authors, any author, would absolutely love to do. You've achieved the goal of chucking in your day job and becoming a full-time author. Congratulations on that. How How hard was it to make that decision?
Oh my goodness, it was so difficult. And I loved my job. My job was amazing. But again, and it was around the time that I was diagnosed as well, that I kind of cut myself some slack because I couldn't have, my job and my writing and my kids and, my family and my relationship with my partner. It was too many things to kind of keep up with. And like having a house and cleaning it was just too many things. So and what was suffering was my writing and the house, whatever.
Yeah. So basically, is what like what you work it out and go, what fills my cup? What brings me joy? What makes me feel like I've got my purpose and all that sort of stuff, and you work at all that. But then obviously you've sat down with your partner to go, is this okay? Can we do this? Can we make that work? And having a supportive partner is one of the crucial things, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Like I have a lot of privilege in that he has a steady job, and we kind of always tend to go for time together and experiences over income.
Yeah.
So that was kind of an easy decision in that. And he was super supportive because
wow. Okay.
As you know, writer's income can be variable or non-existent, or
Yeah, exactly. You've actually got to work 16 times harder and look for so many different opportunities out there to try and generate the income. And then, people have this dream, this idea that we just make money from the actual book sales. Well, the book sales are like the lowest of, like, say for me, I make way more money in public appearances, school visits, all that sort of stuff than I do with book sales.
Completely wild to me that so often, like, getting paid for a school visit or something is more than my royalty check for like that year. It's like, it's wild.
I know. And that's I sometimes I come back from doing a school, being there for, for 5 hours or 4 hours, whatever it is, and you've had the best time. And then suddenly you remember you actually get to send an invoice and you go, oh, I actually got paid for that. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It's pretty, what we do is pretty good.
It's still wild to me that I get paid to write. It's like, don't they know it's something fun? And,
It can. So, Kitty, you are a walking, talking example that it can happen and it can be done. So, now, when is the Follow Your Feelings series coming out?
So the first two will be out on the 31st of August. They are available for pre-order on Booktopia, I believe, and I'm sure a couple of other places. Just go.
Now, they're out through a firm press, aren't they?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Hold them up again. Here we go.
Who's the illustrator?
Jess Rose.
Ah, okay.
So in the UK, and she did such a gorgeous job on the illustrations. Like, she just captured the relationship amongst the characters so beautifully.
Wow. And how was the working with her? Did you just write the text, send it through to a firm, and then they dealt with Jess? Or?
There's kind of so I worked really closely with Tash from a firm on getting the text right and choosing an illustrator, because we wanted there was a particular style that we were looking for, and again, that kind of the expression of the characters was crucial. And then Jess kind of took it, and we knew that she got it, so there wasn't too much more that needed to be done because we were really careful. Yeah. So there was still, some back and forth and talking and things like that. But she loved the manuscript straight away, which is always really good, because when you have someone who like gets it, you're like, okay, cool, this is going to be fun.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, one last question, Kitty. What lights you up?
Oh, I like learning things. That's always Yeah. I think again, like the ADHD, I like learning new things and new experiences as long as, they're not really sunny or cold.
Okay. Look.
I like some types of discomfort. We don't have to sit with too sunny or too cold. You just walk away from that. Get out of there.
You just wanted you. I like that. So, Kitty, thank you so much for chatting with me.
you.
Good luck with the book. I believe you've also got Bat Who Wants a Hat.
Yeah, Mr. Bat Wants a Hat. There's
Mr.
a
Bat
book
Wants a
launch
Hat.
this Sunday, 1st of August.
Right. Okay. So, because I might put this out on Saturday just before,
Ooh.
or I might put it out after, so it would have been and gone. But we deal with parallel dimensions and timelines here on this show, so people will work it out. So, if they want to find out more about you, your website, please.
KittyBlackAuthor.com, I believe. Yes.
I'll put it down below here. Look, Kitty Black, thank you so much for your time, and I wish you the best success with everything.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.